Vanessa Paradis breaks the silence. France reacts strongly to her hidden pain with Johnny Depp is no longer just a headline, but the first crack in a monument France once held close. Behind that soft, glowing image lies a truth cold enough to make an entire nation stop. And when she reveals the silent pain she carried for years, the story will reshape the way the public sees a love that once looked perfect from the outside. Vanessa Paradis grew up in front of France. People watched her face change, watched her voice settle, watched her presence become something rare. She moved through fame with a quiet grace that made the country feel protective of her. She did not chase the spotlight. It came to her, and she carried it with a calm that felt almost unshakable. From the start, she had an aura that no one could explain. Soft voice, still posture. Eyes that seemed to hide a world she never intended to show. France called her fragile, but the truth was different. She was controlled. She was disciplined. She understood early that silence could be stronger than any headline. That silence became her shield, and people turned it into a myth. Her success never looked loud. Her songs slipped into the culture without force. Her films carried the same quiet temperature. She was the type of artist France claimed as its own. Elegant, private, untouchable. Reporters tried to read her. They tried to define her. None succeeded. The less she said, the more the country adored her. Mystery became her language, and France listened. On red carpets, she did not pose like others. She stood still. She held her hands lightly in front of her. She offered the smallest smile, and that was enough. Photographers expected drama. She gave them calm, and over the years, that calm turned into a symbol to the public. Vanessa was the woman who never lost control, no matter what the world demanded. People believed she lived without chaos. They imagined a life full of balance, art, and a gentle kind of happiness. The public built a perfect frame around her, and she fit inside it because she never pushed back. For France, she was the reminder that fame could still look pure. That a woman could be both famous and untouched by the noise. But that image came with a cost. When you are seen as unbreakable, no one imagines you might be carrying something heavy. No one thinks to ask. Her silence, once admired, became a wall that trapped her inside the expectations of millions. She smiled because France expected her to smile. She stayed quiet because France adored her quiet. And slowly, the world forgot that she could hurt like anyone else. During the years she spent in America with Johnny Depp, France watched from a distance. They saw pictures. They saw events. They assumed she was living a cinematic love story. She never corrected them. She continued to appear calm, collected, almost distant, and the country believed what it saw. But the truth was different. The truth had a darker temperature. While France imagined harmony, she was learning how much a woman can hide behind a composed face. Her elegance became a mask. Her silence became a language of survival. And when she finally chose to speak years later, the reaction was not simple curiosity. It was shock. It was disbelief. It was the moment a nation realized it had never really known her. Vanessa Paradis met Johnny Depp at a moment when her life looked steady from the outside. She was working, raising her daughter, and keeping her world quiet. She did not expect anything dramatic to happen. But sometimes the most dangerous changes arrive without noise. They start as a look, a gesture, a fleeting moment that rewrites everything. They crossed paths in a hallway in Paris. It was a simple place, not a stage, not a spotlight. But the air shifted. Johnny had that familiar energy people talked about, a restless spark, a heat that filled the space before he spoke. Vanessa felt it immediately. Not excitement, not fear, something in between. Something that pulls you closer even when you don't understand why. He smiled at her, not a perfect smile, a tired one, the kind that makes you think the person behind it carries storms you cannot see. She noticed the weight in his eyes before she noticed his charm. It was a small detail, but it stayed with her, a sign she did not know how to read at the time. Their first conversation was short. Simple words, short sentences, nothing special. And yet it felt like the beginning of something that had already decided its own path. Johnny asked her a few questions. Her answers were quiet. He leaned closer, as if he wanted to hear the parts she didn't say. There was a strange understanding between them. A shared silence. A shared loneliness. People around them saw chemistry. France saw beauty and destiny. But Vanessa saw something else. She saw a man who lived in extremes. A man who could be soft one minute and distant the next. A man who carried a sadness that never settled. It drew her in. She didn't know why. She didn't know how dangerous that pull could become. Johnny moved toward her life fast, too fast. That speed felt flattering at first. When someone intense decides you matter, it feels like you've been chosen. It feels like a door opening. Vanessa let the door open because she didn't see a threat. She saw connection. She saw warmth she had missed. She saw the possibility of being understood without speaking much. But the early signs were there. Small things. Moments that didn't match the image the world adored. He would drift off mid-sentence. He would disappear into thought. He would carry moods that changed without warning. Most people would have stepped back. Vanessa didn't. She thought it was part of who he was. She believed she could bring steadiness to someone who lived in chaos. Their story moved quickly after that. Dinners, long nights, quiet mornings, flashes of tenderness that made her believe the rush was real. She fell into his world with a mix of curiosity and caution, but the caution faded too fast. Even then, before the children, before the headlines, before the silence turned heavy, the shape of the future was already forming. Vanessa did not know it yet, but this meeting would divide her life into two parts: the woman she was before him and the woman she had to become after. The early days of their relationship looked warm from every angle. Vanessa felt it first in the small moments. Quiet mornings, long walks, the feeling that someone finally understood her rhythm. Johnny slowed down around her. His voice softened. His movements became gentler. It was the kind of shift that makes a woman believe she is bringing light into someone's life, and for a while, she did. They built a small world together. Simple things held it up. Coffee in the kitchen, music playing in the background, a hand reaching for hers without hesitation. Vanessa liked the normalcy. She liked the stillness she thought she had found. Johnny showed her sides the public rarely saw. He laughed more. He talked about dreams, not problems. He shared memories that made him human, not legendary. She thought this was the real man behind the myth. France watched the couple from afar. The nation loved the image. The quiet French icon and the American star. Beauty and mystery, calm and chaos. It looked cinematic. It looked destined. Nobody imagined that the balance between them was delicate. Nobody thought the brightness could fade. People saw a perfect beginning, and Vanessa wanted to believe in it too. Their home life had a glow during those early years. They traveled, they worked. They returned to each other with stories and exhaustion, and it felt like partnership. Vanessa felt safe in the routine. She felt anchored. She felt chosen. And she carried that feeling with a kind of hope she hadn't allowed herself before. When their children were born, the world became even brighter. Vanessa changed instantly. Everything in her life focused on protection. She protected their privacy, their peace, their small family bubble. Johnny was proud. He adored the children. He adored the tenderness Vanessa showed them. In those moments, she believed they were unstoppable. She believed love could hold everything together. But the brightness had shadows. They appeared early, but softly. Johnny would pull away without warning. He would shut down, not with anger, but with silence. The same silence that once connected them now created distance. Vanessa noticed the shift, but she told herself all relationships have waves. She told herself everything beautiful has cracks. She thought the light would stay stronger than the shadows. In public, they looked solid. Photographers captured smiles. Interviews showed connection. France saw love. America saw elegance. The world saw a couple untouched by turbulence. Vanessa played her part well. She stayed calm. She stayed graceful. She did not show worry. She did not show fear. She believed that protecting the image meant protecting the family. Inside the home, the rhythm slowly changed. Johnny returned from work, more tired, more distracted, more distant. The early tenderness turned unpredictable. Some days he was warm, other days he drifted into himself. Vanessa tried to hold the center. She carried the weight quietly. She believed the early magic would come back. She believed the man she met in that Paris hallway was still there. The golden beginning lasted longer than most people realize. It was real. It shaped her. It shaped their children. It created memories she still carries. But it also set the stage for something heavier. The contrast between brightness and shadow grew sharper each year. And Vanessa learned the most painful truth of all. Sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings hide the deepest fractures. She did not know it yet. She did not see the storm forming. She only saw the light. And she held on to it with everything she had, unaware that the brightness she loved would become the darkness she could not escape. The shift did not happen in a single moment. It came slowly, like a shadow moving across a room. At first, Vanessa barely noticed it. Johnny seemed tired, then distant, then unreachable. She told herself it was stress, pressure, work. She gave him space. She waited for the warmth to return, but each week pushed him further away, and she did not understand why. The silence changed first. It no longer felt gentle. It felt heavy. It felt like something she had to carry. Johnny stopped sharing thoughts the way he used to. He became guarded, then cold. Conversations shortened. Long pauses filled their home. Vanessa tried to break them with small questions, small gestures, small attempts to reconnect. Sometimes he responded, often he didn't. She felt herself shrinking around his moods. His absences grew. Business trips, late nights, disappearances. He did not explain. When he walked through the door, she could tell within seconds which version of him had arrived. The soft one, the distant one, or the one closed off completely. That unpredictability became her new routine. She read the room before she spoke. She adjusted her tone. She adjusted her presence. She adjusted herself. People who saw them in public did not notice the difference. They saw the beautiful couple. They saw two stars moving through life with ease. But inside their home, the tension was constant. Vanessa learned to stay quiet at the wrong times, smile at the right times, and avoid topics that could ignite something she did not want to face. She was not afraid of anger. She was afraid of being invisible. The humiliation came softly, never in public. Always in the small moments. A conversation he cut short. A look that dismissed her. A dinner where he spoke to everyone but her. A party where she stood beside him, yet felt miles away. These were not loud wounds. They were quiet ones. And quiet wounds go deeper because no one sees them, no one asks, no one helps. Vanessa tried to keep her world stable for the children. She kept routines intact. She kept their home warm. She protected their innocence with everything she had. She thought she could handle the rest. She thought she could absorb the coldness and leave the children untouched. But the emotional distance in the house became harder to hide. Kids sense tension even when adults pretend it isn't there. Johnny drifted into darker patterns that Vanessa didn't know how to confront. His mood swung without warning. Some days, he was affectionate. Other days, he shut down. He withdrew into himself, into his work, into a space she could not enter. She felt her own identity fade. She stopped talking about her feelings. She stopped asking for anything. She learned to navigate the silence as if it were normal. The contrast between who he was in public and who he became at home confused her. Fans saw charm. Interviewers saw charisma. Directors saw commitment. But she saw a man falling into shadows he could not escape. She saw the cost of his inner storms. She saw the cracks widening. And she tried to hold them together with a strength no one recognized because she never showed that she was struggling. There were nights she sat in the dark, listening for the sound of his footsteps, hoping they would come with softness. Sometimes they did. He could still be tender. He could still be the man she once believed she knew. But the tenderness did not last. It flickered like a candle in a draft. Alive 1 second, threatened the next. Vanessa began to brace herself for the moment the flame would go out completely. Her own silence became a form of survival. She did not tell friends. She did not tell family. She believed revealing the truth would break everything she worked to protect. The world loved the image of them. France adored the idea of a perfect union. She didn't want to be the one to ruin it. So she carried the weight alone. The darkest part was realizing she no longer recognized herself. She had become smaller, quieter, unsure of her own needs. She had learned to adjust to his absence so deeply that the absence felt normal. And once that happens, the damage is already done. She did not know the breaking point yet, but it was coming. It was already inside the house. It was already inside her. The breaking point arrived on a night that looked ordinary. There was no argument, no raised voice, no dramatic scene. It was the kind of night couples move through without thinking. A quiet house, dim lights, the children asleep. Vanessa in the living room, folding small pieces of life back into order, but something in the air felt unsettled, like the silence had a pulse. Johnny walked in later than usual. He didn't greet her. He didn't look at her. He moved past her as if she were part of the furniture. It was not the first time he did this, but that night, something was different. There was a finality in the way he brushed past. A distance that felt absolute. Vanessa felt it instantly. A coldness that settled deep, the kind that tells you a door has closed for good. She waited for him to say something. A word. A gesture. Anything that would anchor the moment to the man she once knew. But he stayed silent. He stayed in another room. She heard drawers open. Footsteps moved back and forth. Then nothing. A quiet, so sharp it felt like a blade pressed against her ribs. Vanessa stood in the hallway, unsure whether to approach or step back. She realized she had been standing like this for years, paused, careful, waiting for someone else to decide the temperature of her life. That recognition hit her harder than anything he had said or done. She saw herself clearly for the first time, and what she saw broke her. She walked to the doorway, where he stood, packing a small bag. Not a dramatic one, a casual one. Like he was leaving for an hour, not forever. He didn't explain. He didn't look at her. He zipped the bag, slung it over his shoulder, and walked past her again. She stepped aside without thinking. She had done that too many times. The movement felt automatic. That was the moment she understood what she had become. The door closed behind him. A simple click. Quiet, but final. Vanessa stayed in the hallway, listening to the echo fade. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She didn't move. She just stood there, breathing in a house that suddenly felt too big and too empty. Something broke inside her that night, not from his departure, but from the realization that she had lost herself long before he walked out the door. From that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. The revelation came years after the silence began. Vanessa did not plan it. She did not rehearse it. It slipped out during an interview that was supposed to be light, harmless, routine. The journalist asked a simple question. Something about strength, something about love, something about survival. And for the first time, Vanessa did not hide behind the calm the world expected from her. She spoke quietly, but the room changed. She said, "Some pain does not leave bruises." She said, "You can disappear even when someone is looking right at you." She said, "Silence is not peace. Sometimes it is the only way to stay alive." 3 sentences, soft, measured, but devastating. They landed like a cold shock across France. The country that thought it knew her suddenly understood how little it had seen. People replayed the clip. They analyzed her tone. They froze the frame to study her eyes. France realized the truth had been hiding in her stillness all along. The elegance they admired was not ease, it was armor. The silence they celebrated was not mystery. It was protection. And the love story they idealized was not the fairy tale they believed. The reaction spread fast. Women recognized the weight behind her words. They heard their own stories in her pauses. They felt the truth in ways they could not explain. Social media turned her sentences into a chorus of shared pain. Headlines tried to summarize it, but the public did not need explanation. They understood, instinctively. They knew she had carried more than she ever let the world see. Vanessa did not speak to accuse. She did not speak to reopen wounds. She spoke because she was no longer willing to disappear inside her past. Her revelation was quiet, but it shook a nation. France saw her differently. Not as the fragile icon they protected, but as a woman who had survived years of emotional coldness without breaking the mask the world adored. She spoke once. She did not repeat herself. She did not add details. She let the silence return, but now the silence had a different meaning. It was no longer hiding her. It was freeing her. The Renaissance in Vanessa's life did not arrive with fanfare. It came quietly, the same way she had learned to survive. She rebuilt her world piece by piece. A smaller home, a calmer routine. Days shaped by her own rhythm, not someone else's moods. Silence returned, but now it felt different. It no longer pressed against her. It protected her. She focused on her children. They became her anchor. Their laughter filled the spaces that once felt too empty. She learned how to breathe without waiting for someone to walk through the door. She learned how to speak without fear of being dismissed. She learned how to exist without shrinking herself to fit another person's storms. Work returned at her own pace. Music, film, art. She did them because she wanted to, not because she needed to prove anything. France watched her with a softer gaze. Not as a fragile icon, but as a woman who had walked through emotional winter and come out steady. Her life now looks simple from the outside. But simplicity can be a form of strength. She understands that peace is not given, it is built. One boundary at a time, one truth at a time. And in that calm, she finally became whole again.